Kamala, whose real name was James Harris, passed away yesterday. He was 70 years old. We do not know how exactly he passed away yet. He did lose both of his feet due to amputation from diabetes. So we know that played a factor. There was reports he had COVID. I'm not going to say that. We don't know that for sure. Even if he had COVID, that might not have been what killed him, so I'm not going to say it. But let's just talk about his career. He was a big man. He was a man who they brought into the company, who they really pushed as a monster. And he looked like someone who you just did not want to mess with. He had the body paint and the face paint. He was billed as the Ugandan Giant. He portrayed a simple-minded Ugandan who wrestled in bare feet and war paint and loincloth. He approached the ring wearing a mask from like a tribe in Africa, and he had a spear and a shield, and he had managers, and he was like someone like a tribal member you didn't want to mess with, and he was a monster. They brought him in the mid '80s into the WWF. And he had wrestled before. He started wrestling before. He was even in WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling before. But in '84, they brought him in, and he was managed by Classy Freddie Blassie, and he was someone who was used with him, and then he really came back. He was used in '84. He came back. He really started his WWF career, to be honest, in '86. That's when they really began to push him as a monster. He faced Hulk Hogan in a series of matches, which was probably the pinnacle of his career, getting in there with Hogan. He lost them, but working with Hogan, they would look for different guys to work with Hogan. He was a really good one to work with him, and he had he had several matches for the WWF Championship, and those were big profile matches. Hogan and Kamala. It was really sold a lot of money. And Hogan, people say, Hogan can draw it everyone. But when Kamala was there, people took him seriously. Like, oh man, this guy, no fuck Hogan can take this guy. I don't want to mess with him. He was mainly due to one of the thing with him, with Kamala, was he was a large man. He looks like someone who can beat you up. And of course he could. And he was portrayed really well as a monster, and he had that feud with Hogan. And then later he would, in '87, he would gone. He left there again, and he was mad about his pay, basically. There was frustrations about him, and frustrations he had with the company with his pay. And that was a thing that continued to go on. He then left to various other promotions. He was in CW again, CCW actually. He wrestled there. And then he comes back to WWF in '92 and '93, and this was his, I guess this would actually be his second return, or I guess this was his third run actually. There, Kim Chi and Harvey Wilkman are his managers, and he challenges Randy Savage for the title. He loses, and '92 is when the company starts to do poorly, and here is where he really started to feud with The Undertaker. He lost to him at SummerSlam. And he, in '92, this is a claim he had in an interview. He said that he was paid $13,000 for the match. Undertaker was paid $500,000, and I'm not sure if that was accurate. But he would continue to feud with the Undertaker, and he lost the Undertaker again at the Survivor Series when they had the casket match. And after he lost that, he was mostly, they started to push him down the card again. They really began to humanize his character. He feuded with Kim Chi for a while, and then he had some matches with Bam Bam Bigelow, and the match was canceled at WrestleMania 9. That shit was a mess. And eventually in '93, they decided, he basically retired. And this was the third time he left the company. And once he did that, he stepped away from professional wrestling for a while, for about 2 years. And then, however, he makes a comeback again to WCW, and Hulk Hogan requests Kamala joined. He would join the Dungeon of Doom stable with Kevin Sullivan, and his goal was to attack Hogan. And they basically, after that, he didn't last long there. He went back and to the USWA after that, and then he would just make sporadic appearances in the WWE, to be honest. He was actually in the gimmick Royal Rumble, or the gimmick Battle Royal match, or WrestleMania 17, and he was led by Sergeant Slaughter. Remember, he was in that match. And then in '04 from '06, he made numerous appearances. When Randy Orton was the legend killer, he had a feud with him, and he had a feud with. He was just used more so in 2005, 2006. I remember. I think that's before he had the amputee. Eventually, he had a lot of problems with his health issues, and even before 2011, when he first had his leg amputee, he still had matches. He would do independent shows, but in 2011, that's when he had the amputee from high blood pressure and diabetes. And once he had that, he had to retire, and he also had his right leg amputated in 2012, as they needed to amputate that as well. What happened was there was also, I wanted to mention, there was some controversy with him and Dawn Marie, and I want to mention it because he cut a classic promo on Dawn Marie. It's not a good issue. I hate to mention this when I'm remembering the guy, but it was basically, she had a charity for wrestlers, and he was supposed to get money. He didn't get it. I forget the whole story, but it happened in 2012, and he had the classic rant on Dawn Marie. When he got a lot of money, that was just a classic promo. I wanted to mention because it was very memorable. But he continued to have health issues. In 2017, he had life-saving emergency to clear fluid from around his heart and his lungs, and then he continued to have problems. And on August 5th this year, he tested positive from COVID-19. He likely contacted it from one of his visits to the dialysis center, and he went into cardiac arrest on August 9th, and he later died that afternoon. August 9th was yesterday, so he died yesterday, and he was 70 years old. We don't know if COVID killed him. It could have caused it. We don't know for sure. He did have a lot of other health issues, a lot of big issues with diabetes. He lost both his legs. We don't know for sure, but it could have been COVID. We don't know yet, and I'll wait to hear the official report when that comes out. But wanted to pay tribute to this man. He was a great monster in the company. He was, he was someone who had a great look. He was very memorable. People remembered him, I think, because they knew, he's very distinctable. You know who this guy is as a wrestling fan because of his look, and he was a monster. He was a really good heel when they used him. So it's very unfortunate. From what I've heard, people who've met him, one of the nicest guys. Kamala's super nice. James Harris, one of the nicest guys to meet in the business. People who've went at conventions. I've never met him personally, but I've heard people talk about him. We've met him. Very nice guy. Very humble. This is very sad. 70 years old. Pay my tributes to James Harris. Give my condolences to his families, and rest in peace to the Ugandan Giant.